Hello again, welcome back. More now on the controversy at the top of Spanish football after the head of the country's football association kissed a player on the mouth after the World Cup final. Luis Rubiales has been suspended for 90 days by FIFA, but has shown no signs of contrition. Well, I'm joined now by Gordon Smith, who is a former chief executive of the Scottish Football Association. Great to have you with us. We're in a strange situation, aren't we, tonight, where FIFA have suspended him for 90 days, but the Spanish Football Federation is sticking with him. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, it's a strange one, really, because if you consider something like this has happened, I mean, really, if the player didn't want it to happen, then it was totally inappropriate. And that's why there's obviously been action taken against it, because FIFA would see that if the players who she did come out and say that she didn't comply, he's come out and said that she did. She wanted a kiss. There was no problem with it. She agreed to it. So that's the usual sort of thing you get in the football world or in life in general, that one person's word against another. So we don't really know, but I think that for him to do it anyway, in terms of how he treated it, it was a bit inappropriate. And I think that from that point of view, I think that's why FIFA are taking her word more than his in terms of actually what happened.
Do you think it feels like the culmination of a variety of events and issues that have been brewing for some time, and this was the straw that broke the camel's back almost?
I think so, because there were a number of other issues in the Spanish game, and that was what was quite a strange one, the fact that it went on to do so well in the World Cup finals, because quite a few of their players had pulled out, and that was because of the coach. They had the big arguments in terms of how they were treated. Not inappropriate behaviour, but just in terms of the way they weren't treated very well, in terms of the travel and the accommodation, all that type of thing. And about 15 players actually pulled out the squad. I think about 3 or 4 of them came back in, but there was still a lot missing. And for them to go on and win the actual trophy was quite outstanding, considering the fact they'd lost some of their key players.
I mean, the women's game now is more popular than ever. Do you think this is a moment of reckoning almost? With this new sort of greater attention comes change?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's a good point. It's a major issue because the women's game has now taken on a new level of importance. There's no doubt about it. And the fact is that because you've got a situation where you're actually looking at the new world champions, this has occurred regarding their own, how they actually deal with things, then that's why this is a major issue, and that's why FIFA are taking action on it. There's no doubt about it. The women's game has propelled over the recent years, and that's a big factor. And because the Spanish ladies are actually making an issue of it, then I think that's why this is coming to the fore.
Is this sort of behaviour something you ever witnessed during your time at the SFA, sort of misogyny and sexism and almost a sort of patronising attitude towards women's football?
No, I never saw it as such, but it's always difficult. I mean, more and more, most of the coaches originally were all men coaching the women's teams, but nowadays you're getting more women are actually taking the teams. Women have got more sense of what's required in terms of how women's minds work, in terms of what's required to be a coach of a women's team. And that's why it was quite surprising that, a man actually did go on and win the World Cup with Spain, because in general, it's more and more women who are actually looking after these teams. I never saw any of this sort of thing when I was at the SFA. There was a lot of people who were quite against the development of the game in the women's side, because they just didn't feel it was appropriate because of the fact there was not a lot of money in the women's game. The crowds were small, but that's all changing, and the game's becoming very strong, and it's certainly getting watched worldwide now, and because the World Cup audiences proved that the women's game has become very popular.
And of course, the Spanish side refusing to play any more matches until he goes. What impact will that have? When's their next game? It's coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, that will have a major impact now. I think that from that point of view, I think that Rubiales would probably be better resigning now at this stage. If everything's so strong, he's as well walking away, and if things change, it can always be brought back in at a later date if some new evidence comes up that makes him innocent. But at the moment, it looks like guilt. And from that point of view, in order to take the game forward for the women in Spain especially, then I think he'd be better resigning.
And of course, the sad thing is that this all really overshadows what should be a fantastic week of celebration in Spain.
Yeah, it is sad for them, because you're absolutely right, because it is a major thing for the women's football, for teams to develop and actually for them to go on and win it, especially, as I said, when they had so many problems and lost key players prior to the World Cup finals, and then still went on and won it. And that's why it was a major celebration. But from that point of view, it's how you've got to be appropriate in terms of how you celebrate, and then how you actually enjoy the moment that arrived from them winning the World Cup.
Yeah, just summarise for me what you thought of the World Cup. Aside from all of this, it was an impressive event, wasn't it? And the Lionesses did themselves proud.
Yeah, I think they did really well. I thought it was an excellent World Cup, and I think that all the way through there was a lot of good teams in it. I mean, Australia had a good team. The Spaniards were very good. There's no doubt, considering they lost so many players. Sweden are usually excellent at that level. And the United States even are good in the women's game more so than the men's game. So from that point of view, I think it was an excellent tournament, and I think that one that now people will be more inclined to watch.
Absolutely. Great getting your thoughts. Gordon Smith, former Chief Executive of the Scottish Football Association. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Jonathan.